So, before I start talking about what I was going to talk about, I want to give a little backstory to this cheer, this gift. Um, this is from a series called Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's an old anime from the early to late '90s. This specific is from a movie they made of it at the end to kind of cap off the series, and to what I think is probably one of the greatest works of modern art that has ever been made, or really one of the greatest works of art that has ever been made in history. Just that's how highly I feel about it. It is something that resonates with me on a spiritual level. In this scene in particular, this is the scene at the end of the movie where the main protagonist, Shinji, he is given a choice by God, essentially. That's how I see it. To either completely have people as a single spiritual entity forever with no separate boundaries between one or the other, or to go on living as he has lived. And it is a choice that he must make because in his life as it stands, he is alone. He does not have companionship. His family has only used him and manipulated him. He doesn't have much stake in keeping the world the way that it is. In all his life, he has sought to have a closer connection with the people around him and to be accepted and loved for who he was. I think like we all do, you know? And so he made the choice ultimately to kill the world, to kill every single living human being on the planet, and also bring up the spirits from the dead into one singular consciousness for eternity. This scene is the representative end of that goal, where he is finally fused with, you could call the body feminine, the feminine animus, because that was his hang up for a lot of his life was the feminine, females, women, because he did not receive any gratification from them. And so his ultimate wish fulfillment was the presentation of this scene here, where he is fully immersed and fused on a spiritual, mental, and physical level with the body animus of God, the unending, unseparable, unrevocable, eternal oneness. He was able to speak to his mother who had passed away, and he was able to finally feel what it felt like to be fully accepted on a level that was not even possible while people were still singular individuals. In this scene, he is speaking to God, essentially, and God, when he replies with a question, well, he asks God a question. He says, but where is everyone? Where's the acknowledgement? And God is basically explaining to him that there can be no acknowledgement because there is no contrast anymore. You have made the decision to have everyone instantly communicate between each other without any boundaries, and thus there is no time, there is no context for acknowledgement or separation and then alignment to take place. It is eternally, and it always has and will be, singular. There is no more individual. So God has explained to him that this is the world that you wished for. Whether you knew it would be like this or not, this is what you have received. And he came to a stark realization that it might not be exactly what he was hoping it would be. While it is an unending symphony of spiritual satisfaction, pleasure that which is incomprehensible to the physical mind. It is in its unending and constant state without meaning because it is just that. It is an unending and constant state. There is no contrast. So therefore, he decided to take back his decision and to grant everyone their own individual consciousness and their own free will as opposed to this state of being. And this resonates with me because when I watched it and I saw through the lens of the characters, each one seemed to represent a sick, like in their own part of my psyche. Each one seemed to represent its own individual conflict that they had dealt with, that I have dealt with. Isolation, separation from your peers, no acknowledgement from your family, no female sexual attention, so on and so forth that I discussed before. And what is interesting upon rewatching it as I did recently is that I had an epiphany. I had an epiphany that if everyone was to agree with me and everyone was to give me everything that I had always wanted from them, and I was exactly the person that I had wanted to be, there would be no development. I can see through the eyes of the different representations of, I guess, manifestations and aspects of psychosis through the lens of the characters of the show that it's like a message hidden in the show for me specifically, where it's like teaching me through the eyes of the characters interacting with Shinji, who is the, you know, body figurehead of my own self in the series, that Shinji, through his cowardice and self wallowing and depression, could not see the things that he did have and rather chose to see the void. He chose to see the separation, the darkness between himself and other people, rather than look at the things that he did have during life. He was placed in a very tough situation. He was abused. And yes, the people around him were jerks to him, and no one really got along with him, but it's not all their fault, and it's not all his fault. If you wish things to be individualistic and for everyone to have their own free will and to be fragmented in such a way that reality is given context and the experience is born from the external manifestation of physical reality and through the perspective of other people viewing yourself and forming a subjective, I guess you could say, straw man in their head, and then having the both straw men in both people's heads worked out between each other so they can find a common ground of communication. That whole process of like social melding is where you get the energy. It's where you get the sparks. And Shinji, at the end of the day, made an unselfish decision by allowing things to return to what they were, because the first scene that happens when he allows things to return to what they were is that he is scorned and he is mocked just like he was previously. But now he has the context for it. He has the context for why this would have happened in the first place. And I believe I've received the context for why it would be like this in my life. No, I don't fit in. People really don't like me. It is what it is. Someone has to be me. Someone has to live my life, and I am the one that's living my life. Fortunately, unfortunately, it is what it is. Don't get pats on the back, and I don't have social group, and I don't have any of these things that I wish I did, but I feel like if that were different, then I would not be the person that I am, and I would not be able to develop in the way that I have. It may be true that I may never fit in. I may never find the things that I am looking for in this world. But even if that is the case, I would still make the decision to have people be individuated and to not forcibly have people melded with my consciousness just so that I could have reciprocation for my own personal strife. I mean, it does suck, I admit, but God, in reading the Bible and through God, I have come to understand that no matter what happens, you are not alone in the way that you think you are. Someone, whether here in this dimension or in another, or on another plane of existence, or in some strange abstract way, I get the feeling that someone appreciates the irony and the humor of my life. It is funny if you were to look at it from a farther high up perspective. It is hilarious. I admit it is quite funny. Um, and I want to say that despite how abrasive I can be to other people, and this is not to say that I try to be, but it seems like that anytime I make a genuine effort to socialize, it always ends up in people, I don't know, being repulsed by me, even though I try my best to not let that be the case. It still is that way. And so I have to accept the fact that perhaps that's just the way it is. That's who I am. And I have been given a purpose that I will not receive credit for in this life, or maybe I never will. It stands to be seen. So the question is, if you know that things will never get better during your life, and you know that you will always be alone, and you know that you will always be walking alone with no other context and perspective aside from your own personal spiritual observation of it, why would you go on? And that is what you would call faith. Faith, that is why faith is important. Faith in God, faith in the order of things, faith in the machinations of the spiritual realm above your comprehension. What choice do I have but to have faith? Should I end my life? Should I do something crazy? Should I try to fight the world and go out with a pitchfork and a torch and yell in the streets about what has happened and what is happening? It would make no difference. I must have faith that there will be a balancing to this situation. I cannot have faith in myself, and I cannot have faith in other people, which is not to say I don't trust other people or that I don't allow them into my life. I'll freely welcome anyone if they wish to come and experience it. And I have a feeling that I will not always be alone. I think that there will be one or two people who will be like me that I can associate with, and that's who I'm looking for. But as for now, I have to walk with God as best I can and do what I know how to do and what I understand how to do. And that's the only thing that is possible for me. Because my conscious interjection of the formula here has not yielded any results, you know? So the revelation would be that this is the world that we wish for deep within our secret heart, in the subconscious mindscape of the eternal essence. This is the imprinted truth on our hearts, that this is the medicine. This is exactly where we were meant to be at any given moment. And that someone somewhere out there has our best interest in mind. And once we understand that this is what was wished for, it brings it all into context. Why would I wish for this? I was thinking about that earlier. Perhaps I would wish this because I was the same person I have always been for an eternity. Deceitful, angry, apathetic, and I had had everything that I had ever wanted for an eternity, and I had remained the same. And now, this holy moment, this immeasurable, powerful reality, this present that cannot be measured, I have the rarest and most valuable opportunity, and so do we all. The opportunity to change, to grow better. It could be that we, who we are, this could be the most special and significant lifetime that anyone has ever experienced in the history of reality. Change, emotional growth, emotional awareness, and empathy can only exist in a place of contrast. And who all but us would accept the fate that would include the way this world is and the way that our lives are, would pay such a great price unless it yielded an even greater reward. So, I believe that no matter what happens, this will go down and be remembered, if it is to be remembered, as the most profound and significant thing that has happened to any of us in an eon. There are immeasurable theories as to what this place is, and where we came from, and where we are going. And the secret is, to me, that we never really know those things. And because we don't know those things, we are forced to live in the moment that we have, when perhaps outside of this place, with our full knowledge, we cannot act independently or truthfully in a way, because we already know what the outcome would be. And in this place we do not. And therefore, truth, honesty, love can't exist. Because we do it within the doldrums of hell, within the burning fire. We choose to act in a way that is empathetic towards our brothers and sisters. We choose to act in a way that is profoundly profoundly positive within a world that is profoundly negative. We choose to act in a way that is helpful towards ourselves and towards those around us, even when we live in a hellscape full of gnashing teeth and burning fire, brimstone, death, of wishing and having not, in the most profoundly negative place that has ever existed in the history of reality. Yet here, we choose to still be decent people, no matter how many mistakes we make, no matter how bad things get, no matter how much of a jerk we are and how much of a jerk people are to us. We still, when it all comes down to it, when it really, really matters, we have decided that when all of our power has been taken away, when all of our knowledge has been taken away, on our knees, weakened, stricken, we still say no. I will give up what little I do have to my brother so that he may continue to crawl and he may give his lot to another. Maybe an opportunity that has never come before. So I cannot complain. I must push on, so must we all. For what is more profoundly spectacular than to be starving, dehydrated in the midst of a vast desert, and turn to your fellow man and hand him your last drink of water? No matter what came before this, and no matter what will come after, it will be etched into the eons, it will be etched onto our souls that we, in this dark place, acted wisely and kindly. They that can never be taken away from us. It would have made all the suffering worth it. Look at the person beside you and be able to say that I do love you because it has been proven. When all has gone, I still care. That I believe is unique to our situation. God bless. I hope you have a good night. I will read a short poem now before I go. Hand in hand, I reach towards the moon. Mind unknown, it bends the spoon. Finger upon finger, as brick on brick, an open wound, too salted quick. Crawling through sludge, a deep wilderness swamp, too thick to breathe, too thin to stomp. One last hand reaches the surface there, and I grab it so, for as I drown deep in the mud, I still would not have my brother brought low.